transport topics in Washington, D.C., this is Road Signs. Here is your host, Mike Fries.
Welcome to this episode of Road Signs, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking, sponsored by Cummins Incorporated. The industry is still buzzing after the Advanced Clean Technology Conference, better known as the ACT Expo. The subject of alternative fuels is a fast-moving target for trucking, and OEMs as well as suppliers have been launching products that are moving the industry forward in the world of hydrogen, biodiesel, and natural gas. But in large, there's still a way to go for all of this to come to critical mass. So for this episode, we'll ask the question, how can fuel-agnostic engine technology improve efficiency and performance in the trucking industry? For the answer, we'll bring in an expert from Cummins, who has been hands-on with fuel-agnostic engine production for quite some time. Jim Nebergall, Executive Director of Market Strategy.
Welcome to Road Signs, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Cummins made a big splash at the ACT Expo. We had a keynote session from Jennifer Rumsey, which just stated that the industry is resilient with the forward motion of alternative fuels and electric vehicles. But I also want to talk about the production of the X15N, just the announcement during that show of the 15-liter engine being produced with the Cascadia. You know, it's very important for the evolution of natural gas. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, just sort of like a going all in on natural gas. I just wanted you to elaborate on that piece of news before we get into things with this interview.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, that was a great show. It was good to connect with people and see all the latest technology. And yeah, really excited about our announcement of the X15N and the Cascadia. And if you look back, Cummins has been in this space, in the natural gas engine space, for over 20 years. We have 3 different platforms, a 6.7 liter, a 9 liter, and a 12 liter. And with the announcement of our 15 liter in the Cascadia, it's really the icing on the cake. We've had a 12 liter for years, but it never delivered that full Class A, over-the-road, long-haul performance, diesel-like performance. So, you know, to go over the Rockies, to really deliver that, the most difficult duty cycles, the heavy haul cycles, the 12 liter really couldn't reach the pedals, and the 15 liter is what we needed. There's a lot of excitement in the market about this. We've finally got that true heavy duty diesel like performance in a natural gas package.
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady, like the Cummins 2027 X15. Built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system, the X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
Jim, I just want to ask this question for our viewers. We've been talking about the Cummins HELM platforms for over a year now. HELM stands for higher efficiency, lower emissions, and multiple fuels. Could you, before we get into the nitty-gritty, tell our viewers of course, the meaning of HELM, but how does that apply to the line of engines that Cummins has?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's not too often that we have the opportunity to redesign our diesel engines or our engines in general. And so when we took on this effort, we knew that there's a lot of diversity in fuels going forward, low carbon fuels, gaseous fuels like natural gas and hydrogen, and gasoline from a liquid fuel perspective. And so we were very intentional in designing the engines, using both state-of-the-art tools to design them, but designing them in a modular way such that we could reuse as many of the components as possible and only change the components that were required based on the different fuel type or specific needs related to the fuel. And so we were able to design a new series of engines with this mindset such that we could have lower cost shared components and also ease the integration on the truck makers because they're also facing a lot of work with latest technologies. And so the X15N was the first launch of that HELM series from our 15-liter perspective, and that's the natural gas version. And then we have a diesel version of that engine coming in EPA 27, so in 2027. That same methodology has been used on our new medium duty engine, so our new 10 liter, and it's also a heavy duty engine. So it has both place and a medium duty and heavy duty at that 10 liter node. And then also our new 7.2 B series engine. So they all have the same philosophy so that we can make these engines in different variants. But I should clarify, it is not something that you can choose to switch once it's in a vehicle. It's installed this way from the beginning with a given fuel type.
Okay. That road that a fleet would choose when it comes to the fuel in their units. We've heard a lot of talk about electric vehicles, the benefits of them, and of course the challenges when it comes to building the infrastructure and maintaining the infrastructure when it comes to electric vehicles. But in the meantime, that gap, the closing of that gap, a lot more, I guess, excitement or just interest in those alternative fuels, such as hydrogen, and even hydrogen, and more recently natural gas has been coming into play. When you guys had released that at Expo, that's been a hard word to say, even though it's been going on quite a bit at Expo. But one of the things, that whole push, manufacturers such as yourself and other players are really leaning into natural gas, some in hydrogen. Would you say, just speaking from an engineering standpoint, were there more hurdles in building a natural gas platform versus something like a hydrogen ICE that's a little longer in the ways? How's that? How is that comparison? Is it? I wouldn't say one is easier to build than the other, but they all have their advantages and hurdles. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. There's actually quite a few differences, and you think about the different fuel types. Diesel, it's a very complex system. It uses the after treatment, as we know, works pretty hard on a diesel after treatment with the SCR, and the DPF. On natural gas, it's actually a little bit more of a simpler technology because it uses a simple three-way catalyst for an after treatment. You have maintenance free. There's no action the operator has to take. Just like your gasoline car today, there's a three-way catalyst with two oxygen sensors, and that's how we deal with the NOx emissions. Additionally, because we have experience in the natural gas from the previous engines that I mentioned, it's a relatively simple system. It's a port fuel injected engine. And so probably the simplest might be the natural gas engine. And then the hydrogen, it is a gaseous fuel. It is less known in the industry, so there's not as much historical knowledge. And the architecture that Cummins is using is a direct inject system. So it has a fuel injector, which is a new component for the industry. Anything the hydrogen comes in contact with on the engine has to be thought about from a embrittlement perspective. We have to think about the metal choices. The hydrogen engine also uses a more diesel-like after-treatment system for NOx control. So it does have SCR. The nice thing, though, about hydrogen, it has no soot. So you do not need a DPF or a particulate filter of any type. There's no regenerations. Hydrogen is kind of like in between the two. It uses some diesel technology, closer to a diesel after treatment, but then it uses some of the spark ignited technologies of a spark ignited natural gas engine.
With those benefits to the engine, many fleet and owner operators are looking at the X15N. That really piques their interest and learning more about how this engine could slash emissions while performing like a diesel engine. I guess that's the allure to it. That's one of the main sticking points that most fleet operators are attracted to.
Yeah, it is. Like you mentioned earlier, the road to zero emission vehicles is long. We need infrastructure, we need technology readiness to really deliver on that true zero emissions. And along the way, it's going to be a long road. We have further improvements that we'll be making in diesel engines. And there's a lot of technology that we will continue to see added to reduce these carbon emissions. But we also have natural gas, which is here now. It's available today. A lot of customers are using renewable natural gas. So the natural gas is sourced from a renewable that would have gone into the atmosphere through as methane. And so it's captured and converted into renewable natural gas. And it actually has a negative carbon footprint. So life cycle emissions from production to consumption of that fuel, it is zero. And that's even better than a battery electric vehicle. To be safe, it's actually negative carbon in the whole life cycle. So that really attracts customers, but also the cost of the fuel is actually quite low. It's a cost savings as well. There's a TCO benefit because the fuel is so low. So it's really cost savings It is good for the environment. And now we have diesel-like performance from the 15-liter.
In the face of uncertainty, some things remain steady, like the Cummins 2027 X15. Built on 25 plus years of experience and delivering up to 4% better fuel efficiency in a weight-neutral system, the X15 gives you the strength to move forward fearlessly and confidence that no matter the obstacle, you can and will rise above it. The 2027 X15, forever rising. Estimates based on preliminary testing. Individual results may vary.
The TCO is a really big attribute for accessing units such as these. That was one phrase, total cost of ownership, that has been bandied about at the expo in the previous week when we were out there in Anaheim. And that seems to be a big selling point for fleets. Do you feel, just from where you're standing at in the Cummins' position, you have the HELM platform, you announced the natural gas engine being produced later this year. And also, you're definitely making roads in development of the hydrogen engine, the H2 ICE. Do you feel OEMs in your position, do you feel well positioned to address the alternative fuels when it really does come into critical mass? Because right now, we're still, as an industry, selling to those fleets about the benefits. And it's maybe something that can be seen, but it's not something that is such a critical mass. How do you feel that your company is positioned correctly to address all the needs that fleet owners will have when it comes to natural gas and other alternative fuels?
Yeah, I think we are positioned actually quite well. Our customers, these fleets, they're running a business. They need cost-effective technology that you can operate reliably, you can trust it, it's durable, and that's number one. If they can't get that, then it doesn't matter what the technology delivers. Our platforms and our engines, we'll be selling these for a long time because they're delivering on the promise and the value that the customer wants. If the customer is willing to take the leap into natural gas, they have to commit to it, right? You have to deal with the fueling and you have different maintenance intervals. You have some different maintenance practices, but the customers that do it and make it work, they're saving money. We are investing in battery electric technology. We had an announcement with Isuzu. They'll be offering our new batteries. We have investments in fuel cells, so hydrogen fuel cells to convert hydrogen into electricity to basically run. It's like an electric vehicle, but there's a small generator called a fuel cell that keeps your batteries charged. And then we're investing in kind of a bridge between the two, a fuel cell and an engine, and that's our H2 ICE. So it's a combustion engine that runs on hydrogen that leverages our historical capability in engines, but with a fuel that has no carbon. And so we've essentially, our dance card's full. We've got all the technology in our portfolio, and that helps the OEMs because they're also investing in automation. They're investing in the new chassis, in safety systems. And so we help the industry because we're able to invest in the powertrain and provide the options to OEMs when they need them to fit their model and then also what the customers need.
Jim, with that full dance card, there's many other things that the dancers need to tend to as well, such as, the performing shoes and the costume. And I guess in this analogy, I'll make that the fleet maintenance part of things, just kind of getting the upkeep of this new technology that we have coming down the lane. With, many fleets, that are familiar with diesel maintenance, what type of technical training or upskilling will be required? For this new world of alternative fuel and electric.
Yeah, and so if we start with the natural gas engine, obviously it is still an engine, but it's different. So we have unique training modules that would qualify a repair location to work on natural gas. There may be some special tools that usually occur with any new engine launch. The main differences really are, if you think about what's different than diesel, it does have spark plugs. So there are maintenance intervals on the spark plugs. From an engine perspective, that's one of the main differences. There's no DPF, so there's no regenerations. There is a fuel delivery system on the vehicle as well. The fuel is stored as a high pressure system that has an annual maintenance safety check associated with that. From a facilities perspective, to qualify a location to do service and repair, the service location, to bring a natural gas vehicle indoors, you also need some facility upgrades like specific lighting so that there's no ignition source in the event that there's a leak of any kind. You also have exhaust fans to circulate the air. So there's a few facilities upgrades that are required. But the nice thing is when you make that leap into supporting natural gas products, it's actually very similar to supporting hydrogen products in the future. So you have to have the same lighting to support either a hydrogen fuel cell or an H2 ICE service that indoors. You need the same circulation fans. And the only difference is you have a different sensor that can detect a hydrogen leak because hydrogen has no odor. And so it's nice because it's a journey. You can start with natural gas. You start to get used to servicing a gaseous fueled product. And then you can transition that investment in the skills into hydrogen, be it a fuel cell or an engine in the future.
Okay. With the platform, you're well past the finish line when it comes to development on this. But I would like to know, right before getting those final engine specs and requirements that you guys implemented in the engine platform, what type of adopter fleet feedback did you receive on that? And how did that influence what we're seeing in the final product now?
Yeah, we do. So we're very lucky that we have a lot of experience with our 12-liter natural gas. And there's a lot of passion for that product. And we have a lot of experience, units out there, miles driven. So that is a tremendous source. The customers that were buying our 12-liter, that was a tremendous source of information to influence the 15-liter design. But we also have our diesel experience. We knew that our customers wanted diesel-like performance, transient response, power, torque, and to really deliver and drive like a diesel. So we've been able to leverage that experience as well. And then we do extensive testing with customers before we go to production. So we call them corner cases. So we look for those applications and duty cycles that really stress the engine, from the lightest loads to the heaviest loads to the different environmental conditions, altitudes, et cetera. So these were running all over the world before we actually turned on final production. And so we use that extensive input to influence the product's design to make sure it delivers on the Cummins value promise.
Let's fast forward to the end where we talked about TCO and just having that resale consideration for fleets. I know, Jim, I'm not going to ask you to look into a crystal ball of things, but with that cost of ownership and the potential of a more promising resale value in trucks that have alternative fuels, do you think that's going to be a major driver in the future when it comes to adopting trucks with alternative fuel and electric? Will that resale value really manifest into something that is going to be a viable benefit for fleets?
I mean, as the first owner makes a purchase, they're always thinking about the residual value. What am I going to sell it for when it's used? What's the secondary market look like? And in general, you're right. These new technologies, be it battery electric, fuel cells, et cetera, they struggle from a resale value because it's a newer technology. Natural gas has also struggled in general for resale value because you have to really commit to the technology. And we do have a lot of customers that adopt the technology and they keep it for its full life. And they continue to make money year after year because of that low fuel cost, and they've paid off the initial capital. So there is a business case to be made, even if you don't have a resale. But for those fleets that do, they're jumping in today because they're seeing that we've got there's more extensive fueling network, and that total cost is so beneficial that they can save money on the front end. I think the secondary market is developing as we now have the 15-liter in place. We also, as we work with agencies on helping break down the barriers for new technologies, we're raising this as an industry on the need for assistance for a secondary market for these technologies. So you can find rebates from a first fit, on your initial purchase, you can get some benefits to help with the cost of these new technologies. But we'd like to see some assistance in the secondary market as well to help incentivize the turnover and the secondary use of any of these new technologies, including natural gas.
Okay. That forward suggesting answer just kind of made a nice segue into my last question that I have for you, Jim. And this sort of piggybacks off of what your boss, Jennifer Rumsey, said during the ACT Expo keynote, where she pointed out a few things that the industry can do to get over this era of uncertainty that we have. And the big thing, and the one point I want to concentrate on for this question, has to do with emission regulations and just sort of the uncertainty that goes in with that. Jennifer gave an overall encompassing description of how the industry should proceed with managing those regulations or the lack thereof or the mystery of. But you, Jim, working on the ground level, you have your hands are literally on the X15 and the platform that Cummins has. What are some of the things that you have done or that the industry can do as a whole to navigate through that uncertainty and to make sure that these manufacturers, engine manufacturers such as yourself, are on the same page as these regulatory boards that are shaping this policy?
Yeah, we are in a very uncertain time, and Jennifer Rumsey did a wonderful job with the keynote speech, and it really addressed just the challenges that we face well and how as an industry we need to come together. And so as we make investments in technologies, we invest in with options. The future is always uncertain around which is the right technology to choose and different paths that exist. And it's no different now. With what we've done, our focus is on delivering value to the customer. So the value that these new platforms deliver exists independent of the regulatory space. Mm-hmm. So each of these engines is lower weight than the previous. They all have higher performance, higher power, higher torque, higher peak cylinder pressure, more capability because we're using the most advanced tools in the industry. The previous engines were designed before we had these analytical skills. And so we're really excited about just the value that the engine offers. And efficiency is another example. Like customers want efficiency. The nice thing is that actually is a CO2 reduction. They go hand in hand. So they happen to be lower emissions, but again, it's all in the name of value. And I think that's something the industry shares. We're here to serve our customers. We want to deliver safe products, durable products, so that they can continue to run their businesses effectively. These businesses, they affect our families as well, right? This is the backbone of America. They deliver the goods. They deliver everything that we purchase, our groceries, et cetera. And so delivering low-cost, high-performing products is what we're about and is what the industry is about.
Well, there's a lot of news from Cummins, coming down the lane, and you guys have offered, a pretty strong platform, such as your Pacers have shown against my Cleveland Cavaliers, but that's on another subject. This was a great conversation and learning a lot about alternative fuels and especially the Cummins HELM platform. We've been speaking with Jim Nebergall. He is the Executive Director of Market Strategy for Cummins. Jim, it was a pleasure having you on the Road Signs. Thank you very much for your voice, and thank you for making us smarter.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mike. This is great. I really enjoy what you're doing.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our previous question. How can fuel-agnostic engine technology improve efficiency and performance in the trucking industry? First, a big thanks to our sponsor, Cummins, and guest Jim Nebergall for joining us. Fresh off the ACT Expo announcement, Cummins looks to rise to the occasion in realizing lower emissions and greater fuel economy. While Nebergall discussed the X15N and HELM platform, he also reached a larger point of renewed interest in natural gas. As with other alternative fuels such as hydrogen, natural gas is buffered by an established infrastructure which makes it ripe for the industry to take advantage. But most of all, Nebergall touched upon the importance of total cost of ownership and how it plays in fleet manager decision-making. What will the future hold for natural gas and its counterparts? This will be a space to watch for sure. If you enjoyed this episode of Road Signs, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Feel free to reach out to the Road Signs team on X at TT Road Signs, or reach me at Michael V. Fries. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. Also, let us know how we're doing by texting TT Survey to 571-622-0001. And of course, we'll be back soon with a new episode of Road Signs. Until then, I'm Michael Fries. Thank you for listening.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open Transport Topics? In just 1 minute, you will hear the biggest trucking headlines of that day. Be prepared and start your morning off right with Transport Topics.